I wanted you to speak some about privacy. And I think the concern is because as spam hackers have become so sophisticated, I am playing the internet game, worry that in 5 years I'm going to find out that there's another Ginny Galisa now who's been shopping on my Social Security number in some other country that I've never heard about. So
yeah. Well, that could be happening right now, Ginny. I mean, I think there are three big obstacles, three big things that governments have to work out. Governments have to work this out for the internet to realize its full potential. And you may think it's already at its full potential, but I think we're in the second inning. And I think there's a lot more to go. Some of it good and some of it bad. But as much as the tech companies tend to be allergic to the government, I think until and unless they want something, I think that the government has to settle three things. One is privacy. What is your property in terms of your personal information? I think that in a capitalist society, and I am a capitalist, I do work at the Wall Street Journal, we understand how to deal with property. We have hundreds of laws, thousands of laws probably, about property, your rights in property, how you transfer property, how you rent the use of property, all these things. And I think if Congress and the legislatures of other countries were to define a set of personal information for every person and say that's your property, it would go a long way to solving a lot of this. Because then if a company wanted to use your information, wanted to spam you or wanted to data mine your trail across the internet, they might have to A, tell you, B, get your permission, C, maybe even pay you. I mean, there's whole industries in this country whose raw material is your private information and they don't have to compensate you for it. So we don't have laws like this, so far as I know right now. And I don't know all about Mark's campaign for Privacy 08, so I don't want to endorse it in detail, but if his purpose is really just to get a discussion going, I say right on. I think we need a serious discussion about this. Trying to do a little bit about it, just a little bit. My partner, Kara Swisher, and I launched a website, which I've already plugged, allthingsd.com, about a year ago. And when you go to our website, I still think we may be the only website I've ever seen that does this. When you first visit our website, you get a big yellow message that tells you that there are advertisers who we don't control which are tracking you on our website and potentially across the web. And this is true on every website. They leave on your computer something called a tracking cookie. A cookie is a tiny bit of text that tells a website something about you. 90% of cookies are perfectly benign. You even want them. They're the things that let the website remember your login if you've told it to remember your login. Or remember what your, if you go to Yahoo or My Yahoo and you put in the 5 cities whose weather you always want to know about and the 10 stocks you want to track and the 4 sports teams you want to track, there's a cookie, this little piece of text on your computer that every time you call it up reminds them, oh, he's a Red Sox fan, which I am, by the way. He tracks these stocks. He wants the weather in Aspen. So those kind of cookies you want. But there's a particular kind called the tracking cookie, which tells some advertiser or some what's called an analytics firm that you've never heard of what you did on that website and sometimes what you've done across the web. And if you go to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or any website, the Washington Post, whatever, companies you've never heard of are putting a tracking cookie on your computer. So on our little website, we just put up a notice that said, hey, it's your first visit here. We want you to know that just like every other website, this website will result in there being tracking cookies on your computer. And here, if you don't want them, here are some pieces of software you can download to clean them off your computer. Here are some websites you can go to opt out of them. Now, we felt we needed to do that because although the ideal solution would be to ask your permission, we don't have the power to do that because there's no structure for it on the internet. But at the very least, we wanted you to know it. I think that shouldn't be the responsibility of a random individual website operator. I think we need laws. that deal with this. What is the status of your private information? The two other things that have to be sorted out by governments are copyright, which is a complete mess. Either they have to codify the practices that have spread around the internet or come up with some grand compromise between the owners of intellectual property and the users thereof that recognizes the changes in the medium, or we're just going to, we're going to have these billion-dollar lawsuits by Viacom against YouTube, which aren't particularly productive. And then the last thing is security, which is related to privacy but not entirely the same thing. So these things have got to be dealt with.